He started to take slow, deep breaths. The darkness was still his ally. He could use that. If he could time it right, he could stealthily move towards the entrance of the cave and sneak out of here, hopefully finding and freeing Arash and getting his family to safety. There were two of these things, as he described them, that he could account for. If I could watch them both at the same time, knowing how the cave snakes, I can make it out of here. He looked across the cave mouth and noticed another dark corner he could use to get to the bend. If he could time it right, he could do this over and over until he could reach the cave entrance. Oliver watched the one closest to him and made note that the other one was just beyond the nearest bend. This was a game of patience and timing. He watched the first one bend down to look at some old weapons. He knew that if he pulled that sword out of its sheath, it would most likely make a sound due to the rust on the blade. The cave was well sealed from the elements due to the door, but not safe from oxygen and moisture. As the man picked up the sword, Oliver took this as his chance and got ready. He looked at the sword, admiring his craftsmanship. The man put his hand on the sword handle. He readied himself. The man pulled the sword out of the handle, and a series of loud scrapes and crackles filled the air. Oliver took this as his chance. Using the sound of the sword as cover, he moved silently to the other end of the cave mouth and was swallowed by darkness once more. He wasn't perfectly quiet, though. As he rushed to the other side of the cave, he managed to move a few rocks in a manner that anybody would notice was not natural. The man whipped around to look at what made that noise. He moved at an angle from where he was faster than lightning, and he began to move towards the dark corner that Oliver was hiding in. Oliver knew he messed up, and made his body as small as he could. The man was walking closer and closer, and Oliver tried to get smaller and smaller, knowing he was caught. "What was that?" the woman who spoke earlier said. "I am unsure. I am about to find out," the man stated. "Forget that. Come look at this." The man grunted a bit and walked over to the older woman, leaving Oliver alone. "Oh, thank God, I think I peed my pants," Oliver thought and laughed at himself a little bit. As the seconds passed, he gained what courage he could and took a peek over the rock he was hiding behind. The two were engaged in reading an old scroll, their backs to him. This left a perfect opportunity to sneak behind them all the way to the entrance of the cave. He was already on the side of the bend that was furthest away from them, so he could begin to crouch walk on the outside border of the cave. As he waddled, step by step, being sure to stick to the shadows, the two were still reading the scroll. Too easy, Oliver thought as he was reaching the end of the cave. The entrance was now within arm's length. His heart was beating faster and faster. If he could just reach the top and get out of eyesight so he could find Arash and get the F out of H, as he put it to himself, that would be amazing. Wait, Oliver thought. It was too easy. Where are the other two? Right as he thought that, right as he put his hands on the rock that led to the entrance of the cave, his escape route, his ticket to freedom, he heard a slight shuffle. He froze. The hair on his arms began to stand as his goosebumps came back. He peeked over his right shoulder, and then his left, and there was nothing to be seen. He thought maybe the other two were making a run for him. Maybe they caught him. He heard the shuffle again as a very small pebble landed right in front of him. He began to shake silently as he slowly looked up at the ceiling of the cave. Two gleaming white eyes looked back down at him, like an animal's eyes when light catches them in the night. He didn't even have time to scream as the figure, this demon, dropped down right on top of him, and his world went black. When Oliver woke up, he was sitting down on the ground, tied to a nearby tree next to the entrance of the cave with his arms trapped behind him. The moon was shining bright above him, and the stars glinted beautifully. His vision blurred in and out, and he saw the four individuals. He still didn't know what to call them, piling artifacts into a utility ATV/truck type vehicle. "Hey, look who's awake," someone said in an almost indistinguishable Australian accent. Oliver mustered up the strength to say a few low words. "Things were going pretty smoothly before you guys showed up." This made one of the others laugh. The older female looked at him with an angry glare, and he smiled and shrugged his shoulders. Oliver was able to get a good look at them now. They weren't wearing anything dissimilar from what Oliver was wearing. Cargo pants meant for rough terrain, boots, button-up work shirts, some of them wearing light, long sleeves and scarves to protect them against the sun, tool belts with various pouches and weapons, pistols on some of their hips, and some carried their pistols on their chest. They were each dressed a little bit different, but there was one thing they all had in common, something Oliver found very strange. They all had some sort of special tool attached to their hands and wrists. It looked like leather straps attached to a glove. They looked like they had... Were those claws? "So what are you guys?" Oliver said. "SEALs? Green Beret? JSOC? CIA?" Oliver looked around, as the thought just struck him. "And where's a rash?" Oliver knew he was in a ton of legal trouble, but he didn't know how much physical trouble he was in right now. "Oh, he thinks we're American." "Well, you're American, James," the man said, looking at another one of the men. The second man looked at him, glared at him angrily, as if to say, "Shut up." The one known as James looked hard at Oliver and said, "George doesn't have much of a filter." George was not impressed. "Your friend, he is safe, back at the village, perhaps eating reshte soup with his grandmother as we speak." When the older woman said this, she gave Oliver a slight side-eye with a sarcastic smile as to say, "Ah, yes, he told us everything." With grinding teeth, Oliver said, "Then untie me and let me join him." "Well, we can't do that now," one of the men said, like it was his fault he was being held hostage. "And why not?" Oliver asked. "Well, we'd like to talk to you about your investigation into Alamut. We've been looking for these caves for a long time. It's a side project for most of us, but..." She was cut off by another man with an oddly enough Iranian accent. "A side project indeed. We're very busy." "Yes, busy indeed." The older woman looked at the man without words, telling him not to give anything else away. "These artifacts are ours. They do not belong to you." Oliver thought about the man. He had the same accent as Arash. "You're right," Oliver stated, his voice a little higher pitched. "They don't belong to you either." Each of the operatives looked at each other. The older woman spoke up. "They will be given back to the Iranians after we've documented and analyzed each of them." Oliver didn't respond to her statement. "Was that you hanging from the cave ceiling?" Oliver looked directly at the older woman, who he assumed was the leader. "How do you move like that? No human can move like that," Oliver asked the woman, her eyebrows shot up. "First of all, you have no idea what humans are capable of, and no, actually, I was at the back of the cave reading the scroll while you were amateurishly crouch-walking across the cave. Don't you remember?" She said this with a tone of disdain, as if his stealthy attempts weren't up to par. Her back was turned to me. How could she see what I was doing? Oliver thought. "So which one of you was on the cave ceiling?" "Oh, that was me, mate. I had a feeling you'd stop at the entrance," he said with a quirky smile. "Oh, great, so you saw me the whole time. Why didn't you just grab me then and there?" "We wanted to test you, Oliver," said the fourth man who had not spoken yet. "You were watching me the whole time while you were in this valley. That's how you know my name," Oliver said. "You were listening." "Well, yes, we were watching you," said the accented man. "But we've been watching your work, trying to find these caves for quite a while. We always knew your name." Oliver looked at each of them, some of them wearing face coverings, some not. His eyes squinted. "You never answered my question." "Who are you?" Oliver demanded. The older woman smiled, bent closer to Oliver and looked at him dead in the eye. "You know, curiosity killed the cat, Oliver." He then felt the ropes loosen with a subtle shink sound from the knife. She'd cut him loose. Taking the ropes off of himself, standing up and rubbing his scratched and red wrists, he looked around. The wind whistled in the ancient dusts of Alamut Valley as he looked at the older woman and her smaller team. But there is a saying we have in our group. Curiosity killed the cat, but knowledge brought it back.